I never expected an ordinary walk home to become the night that changed my life forever. The rain fell in sheets so thick I could barely see the world beyond my outstretched hand. My umbrella fought a losing battle against the gale, its ribs creaking like ancient bones. Every thunderclap felt as though the sky itself was splitting open, and I was standing directly beneath it. Then I saw her, huddled at the curb, a lone figure in tattered clothes, disappearing into the roar of the storm. I forced my feet forward, boots squelching in the frothing gutters where water rushed like a furious river. My coat, meant to shield me from autumn's chill, now felt as heavy as a boulder, soaked through in seconds. Fingers numb, I clutched the umbrella's handle, willing its flimsy metal frame not to buckle under another onslaught of wind. Each step was a small victory against nature's rage, but my mind churned with 1,000 doubts. What if she was dangerous? What if I made things worse by approaching? Lightning fractured the sky, illuminating the stranger for the briefest moment. A woman whose limbs trembled not only from cold, but from something deeper, something I recognized all too well. Her shoulders were hunched as if trying to fold into herself, her hood shredded and useless. A drip of water slid down her cheek, tracing the hollow curve of her jaw. I felt a pang of recognition, as though I too had once been that desperate, that alone. The roar of the storm threatened to swallow my voice, but the memory of my mother's gentle urgings sharpened my resolve. Never turn away from someone in need. My heart pounded in my ears as I closed the distance. I could feel the electric charge in the air, adrenaline surging through my veins. The asphalt beneath my feet was slick and treacherous. One wrong move, and I could slip and fall. But something stronger than self-preservation propelled me forward, the need to reach her before the storm did. As I crouched beside her, offering what little shelter my umbrella could muster, I saw the flicker of fear in her eyes. Time seemed to slow. Each raindrop that pelted the frayed fabric rang a bell of urgency in my chest. I could almost taste the metallic tang of the air, and I realized how long it had been since I'd felt so alive, so acutely aware of every sensation. She didn't speak. She simply curled tighter, as if trying to disappear under my half-broken canopy. I leaned closer, voice a whisper against the gale. "Hey, are you okay?" The words felt fragile in that maelstrom, but they were enough to make her flinch. Her hand shot out, trembling, to grip the umbrella's shaft. Her nails, caked with grime, dug into the metal, betraying panic. We stood in silence, bound together by the precarious shelter overhead, and the shared knowledge that at any moment we could be swept apart. Lightning cracked again, and for an instant, the world was white. In that flash, I saw every line of worry etched deep on her face. The hollowed cheeks, the haunted eyes, the loss of hope that comes when a person believes no one cares. I remembered my own nights of fear and despair, of wondering whether anyone would ever extend a hand. The sight of her so mirrored my past that a sob caught in my throat. I swallowed hard, fearful she would hear and feel the raw emotion spill from me. I shifted the umbrella to drape my scarf around her shoulders, the fabric heavy with rain, but warmer than nothing at all. She stiffened at first, then relaxed, allowing me to wrap the damp wool around her shivering frame. The smallest act of kindness felt monumental in that moment. The wind threatened to rip the scarf from my hands, but I held on, anchoring us both against the storm's fury. "Can you stand?" I asked, voice cracking. She nodded, and together we rose, umbrella and scarf acting as our only barrier. Each step toward the sidewalk seemed an eternity, thunder rolling like distant artillery, the streetlights flickering under the pressure. My muscles burned, but adrenaline drowned out exhaustion. My only thought, get her to safety. We stumbled a few yards to a battered awning above a closed shop. It offered limited refuge. Drips off the rusty edge continued to wet us, but it was enough. I pressed against the wall, sliding down until my back hit cold brick, the stranger huddled beside me. Her teeth chattered in the quiet that fell between thunderstorms. I realized then how isolated we were. The city's usual hum replaced by the relentless crash of water and wind. Minutes passed without another word. I dared not ask her name until I could offer more than empty words. Instead, I stared at the flooded street, the water rushing like a warning. Time was running out. Above us, the awning groaned under the weight of collected rain, and I feared it would collapse at any moment. I rummaged in my pocket and found my phone. No signal. I cursed silently. No point in even trying to call for help. I took a deep breath and met her eyes. "I know a place," I said, voice steady, despite the shaking in my limbs. "A shelter 2 blocks from here. Stay close. Don't let go of that umbrella." She glanced at the broken canopy, as if it symbolized everything wrong with the world. But then her grip tightened. Together, we stepped back into the flood, umbrella angled against the fiercest gusts. I kept my arm around her back, guiding her through the muck. With each step, the rain found its way inside my coat, running down my spine in cold rivulets. My boots squelched, my hair plastered to my forehead, but I barely noticed the discomfort. All I saw was her. Every tremor, every shiver, every flicker of fear that threatened to consume her. Compassion burned in my chest, hotter than any fear of turning back. Mile by mile, we pressed forward. Finally, through the haze, I spotted the neon glow of the shelter sign. Community Haven. Relief surged, but caution held me in check. The door looked battered, the lock rusted. My heart sank. What if it didn't open? The wind tore at my umbrella again, threatening to rip it free. I planted my feet firmly, yanked the umbrella to shield the door, and reached for the handle. It turned with a squeal, and the door swung inward an inch. Enough. I pushed with all my weight. It opened. Warm air, tinged with the scent of coffee and sweat, rushed out to greet us. Volunteers looked up, surprised yet ready, and a pair of strong hands reached from within to pull us inside. The door slammed shut behind us, cocooning us from the storm. I sank to my knees, heart pounding, as I realized we had made it. As the shelter's volunteers hurried to wrap us in blankets, she looked up at me with eyes that glistened in the dim light. Confusion, relief, and something else I couldn't place. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Instead, she reached into her wet pocket and pressed something cold into my hand. Lightning flashed through the window, illuminating the object, and my breath caught in my throat. I stared down at her gift, a single silver coin engraved with a crest I couldn't recognize, my mind racing with questions I wasn't sure I wanted answers to. In that charged silence, I understood that our meeting was no accident, and that the storm outside was nothing compared to the storm I'd just unleashed in my own life. He grips the umbrella like it's a lifeline, knuckles whitening as if the metal shaft were his only tether to survival. A tremor running through his entire frame that mirrors the cold storm's merciless assault. I step closer, the gale swirling rain into my face in stinging sheets. Each droplet feels like an icy bullet, yet I push on, boots squelching in the inundated gutter as water rushes past my ankles. My voice is a brittle thread when I call out, "Here, take half," raising the battered umbrella overhead. In that instant, the world narrows to 2 figures drenched on a forsaken curb, bound by a fragile shelter that creaks under the wind's fury. Thunder rumbles low and insistent, a primitive drumbeat that pulses through my chest. I can feel the vibrations in my bones, a reminder of nature's power to humble and terrify at once. Yet amid this tempest, my focus sharpens on him. A man whose shoulder blades press forward beneath a sodden coat, whose eyes, haunted yet defiant, glint in the intermittent glow of lightning. I recognize that look, the way his gaze flickers between gratitude and shame, as though accepting help betrays a lifetime of self-reliance that no storm should wash away. His hand releases just enough for me to slide the canopy's edge toward his side. The umbrella groans, its ribs protesting against the weight of two bodies fighting the elements. Rain drips from every cracked panel, soaking our shoulders, pooling along the bracket that connects handle to canopy. Yet beneath this pitiful shelter, a sliver of calm emerges, a speck of humanity, in the midst of chaos. I watch as he clutches the metal, his pulse visible at the temple, and I think of how many times I've stood alone in storms of my own making, longing for someone to reach out. Lightning arcs across the sky, a jagged crack that turns the world white for a heartbeat. In that flash, I see the contours of his face, hollow cheeks that speak of nights without sleep or shelter, lips chapped and parted by the cold, collarbones protruding beneath ragged fabric. His eyes meet mine, wide and wary, and I swear I glimpse an ocean of sorrow shimmering beneath the surface. My throat tightens as memories surge, of sleeping rough under freeway overpasses, of watching streetlights jeer at my vulnerability, of swallowing pride to accept a stranger's scrap of warmth. I force back the flood of recollection, reminding myself that I am no longer that person, but also that I understand how vital this moment can be. I shift the umbrella again, tugging my scarf free even as it catches icy rain. Wrapping the thick wool around his shoulders, I feel its damp weight settle against his collarbone, carrying the residual heat from my own chest. He flinches at first, as though expecting the warmth to sting him, but then relaxes, the tremors in his spine easing as the fabric presses close. That small concession, half an umbrella, half a scarf, feels monumental. I realize compassion doesn't require grandeur. It thrives in the modest space carved by two people sharing shelter. Nobody should be out here alone, I say, voice low but unwavering. The words catch in my throat like hail in a downspout, but he nods, as though the truth shatters some barrier inside him. His head bows, rain matting his hair against a forehead lined with creases deeper than his years. Each line tells a story, of struggle, of loss, of nights spent navigating darkness. I wonder what names those lines carry, what memories lurk in the hollows beside them. The thought brings an ache to my chest, tempered by the knowledge that I'm here now, present in the midst of his storm. He shifts his weight, wet fabric rustling like dry leaves in a gale. I see his fingers trembling around the scarf's edge, reluctant to let it slip from his grasp. In that motion, I sense pride tempered by necessity, the inner conflict of accepting help when self-sufficiency has been the only constant. I remember the bitter taste of humiliation, the way shame clings to the bones when you rely on strangers. But tonight, I refuse to let him carry that weight alone. I extend my hand, fingertips brushing his elbow, guiding him off the curb and onto the cracked sidewalk. Each step is a testament to trust. The umbrella wobbles, the wind threatening to snap its joints entirely, but we press forward. The city around us is a blur of shimmering asphalt and cheering puddles, streetlights smeared by rain into golden puddles of half-light. I keep my focus on him, on the tentative way he moves when offered stability, on the way. His gaze flickers not to the ground, but to the precarious arc of the umbrella above us. I catch a glimpse of something new in his eyes, curiosity perhaps, or the fragile bud of hope. We reach a small alcove beneath a shuttered storefront. The awning overhead offers scant refuge, but it is better than none. As we step beneath the rusted metal, the rain's roar dulls to a background hum. I press my back against the cold brick, and he settles beside me, knees drawn to his chest. I slide the umbrella's edge downward, creating a makeshift alcove where droplets drip harmlessly away. He breathes in, nostrils flaring, and I realize the first full breath he's taken in hours, maybe days. Compassion blooms inside me, fierce and protective. Light from a broken neon sign across the street flickers, casting fractured reds and greens across his face. His lips part in an unspoken question, a whisper I can almost hear. Why me? I can't answer for the universe, but I know why I'm here, because someone once did the same for me. I step close enough that my coat brushes his, sharing warmth through wet fabric. "I'm Aisha," I say gently. "What's your name?" The question feels heavy, but life-affirming. He hesitates, jaw ticking, eyes sliding to the ground. I'm aware of every heartbeat pounding in my ears, each one a plea. Speak. Affirm that this moment matters. After a breath that feels like an eternity, he lifts his head. "Rahim," he whispers, voice raspy, as though disused for years. The name hangs between us, a fragile lifeline. I repeat it softly. Rahim, as if learning it aloud, carves it deeper into reality. A tear slips down his cheek, not from the cold, but from something far more profound. I reach out, catching it on my fingertip, and gently brush it away. He flinches at the touch, then closes his eyes, as if comfort is something foreign. My heart clenches at the sight. This man, shaped by hardships I can only imagine, standing beneath a flickering neon light with a single name, trusting a stranger with his truth. We remain beneath that broken awning for several minutes, neither speaking. The rain pounds overhead, but here we share a moment of quiet refuge. I study the way his chest rises and falls, the taut lines of tension easing as he accepts the sanctuary I offer. I realize that sometimes saving someone isn't about dramatic rescues. It's about standing in the rain with them, offering a half-broken umbrella, a damp scarf, and the knowledge that they are not alone. Suddenly, headlights carve through the dark. A car emerges from the blur of rain, slowing as if drawn by our presence. My heart hammers. Fear, vigilance, questions. Who is this driver? Will they assume the worst or extend a hand? I glance at Rahim. His gaze is fixed on the approaching vehicle, eyes widened not with panic, but wary anticipation. The car idles, engine ticking in the cold air. A silhouette leans forward, head tilted as if deciding whether to turn away or engage. Instead of roaring past or calling out a rebuke, the car's engine cuts. The driver's window slides down with a shudder, and a single voice calls out through the rain-soaked night. "Do you two need help?" In that charged moment, Rahim and I exchange a glance, each of us caught between relief and the fear that this offer could shatter the delicate bond we've just formed. I tug my wool scarf free, its damp weight a small sacrifice, and drape it over Rahim's shivering shoulders, determined that tonight, at least, he'll know what it feels like to be cared for, amid a storm that seemed determined to erase him from existence. The moment he felt the scarf's warmth, his body went rigid, as though kindness itself might burn him. I grasped his arm gently but firmly, cutting off his protest before shame could root him to the spot. "Come with me. I know a shelter nearby," I said, voice firm against the wind's howl, hoping the promise of refuge would pierce his walls of self-reliance. Each step we took felt like a rebellion against every instinct screaming at me to retreat. My boots sank into the flooded gutter water, cold seeping through leather into my bones, yet I pressed on, driven by memories of nights when I had nowhere to go, and someone's hand would have saved me from despair. As we skirted the edge of a shuttered convenience store, rain hammered the corrugated metal awning overhead, its echoing drips sounding like nails on a coffin lid. I felt my heart pound in time with the assault, the scent of wet concrete and rust mixing around me like a warning that time was against us. "I'm not usually this brave," I admitted, voice barely audible above the gale, eyes fixed on the distant glow of a neon sign half-heartedly spelling out shelter. My admission hung between us, fragile as the umbrella bending in my grip, yet I saw his eyes soften, an unspoken acknowledgement that sometimes courage finds you when you least expect it. The wind ripped at my coat, pressing its wet fabric tighter to my skin, and I braced against the gusts, each one threatening to snap the scarf from his shoulders. He looked down at the wool, its frayed fibers clinging to his collarbone, then back at me, gratitude etched on his pale face more profoundly than any words could convey. We passed row after row of closed storefronts, their darkened windows reflecting our distorted forms as though mocking our attempt at salvation. The city's heartbeat, usually a distant pulse under streetlights and traffic, had been drowned by the storm, leaving only the sound of water coursing through drains and the occasional rumble of thunder. A stray dog emerged from the haze, its ribs visible beneath filthy matted fur. It hesitated before padding into our orbit, tail low but hopeful. I crouched, letting it sniff my gloved hand, and felt a tug of recognition. Another lost soul seeking connection in the night's fury. Rahim glanced at the dog, then at me, uncertainty flickering across his features. I scented the animal's wet coat and whispered, "It knows what it's looking for." And together, the three of us pressed on, bound by necessity and an unspoken promise of companionship. Lightning split the sky, painting the world in stark white for a heartbeat. In that flash, I saw Rahim's hollow eyes widen, reflecting the brilliance like a mirror to his past suffering. His shoulders tensed as if bracing for a blow, and I realized that every act of compassion must fight not only the storm outside, but the storms within. The wind carried a distant echo of laughter, faint, distorted, like a memory of better times. I stifled a lump in my throat, recalling warm summer nights when I'd sit with friends under clear skies, unaware that one day I'd trade those memories to save a stranger's life. Each step felt heavier as we approached the shelter's block. My boots squelched in icy puddles, sending splashes up Rahim's pant legs, and I winced at the thought of him soaking through to skin. I tightened my grip on his arm, silently urging him forward, promising myself that every ounce of cold I endured was worth the warmth soon to come. Finally, through the blur of rain and lamplight, the neon letters flickered. Community Haven Shelter. The sign sputtered under the onslaught, but its glow cut through the darkness like a beacon of salvation. My heart lurched with relief, though I braced for disappointment. Old locks, torn doors, an eviction from safety. I took a deep breath, flooding my lungs with damp air, and pushed open the warped door. A rush of warm, stale summer breeze mixed with the scent of worn blankets and boiled cabbage embraced us. The rain's roar faded to a distant murmur, replaced by hushed voices and the clatter of steaming mugs on metal trays. Volunteers looked up from sorting coats and pouring tea. Their eyes widened at the sight of Rahim, soaked through and trembling. "Rahim!" one woman called, rising to meet him with arms open. Her voice carried the timbre of someone who knew him, not just as a name on the roster, but as a person whose absence these walls had felt keenly. Rahim's steps faltered as he crossed the threshold, uncertainty flitting across his features. Hands reached out to guide him toward a row of padded chairs. A second volunteer wrapped a thick blanket around his shoulders, smoothing it over the scarf I'd given him, as though layering care upon care. I lingered in the doorway, rain dripping from my coat in slow rivulets. A kind-faced man gestured me inside, offering a towel and a steaming cup of herbal tea. I accepted both, fingers numbing around the mug's ceramic warmth, and watched Rahim sink into the chair as though the blanket and tea were baptisms into comfort. His eyes flicked to me, mischief flitting over the solemn gratitude still lingering in his gaze. He lifted the mug as if offering a toast, to survival, to newfound trust, to the unlikely bond forged in a storm. I returned the gesture, and for a heartbeat, the distant thunder felt like applause to our small triumph. But something in his hold on the mug shifted, an imperceptible stiffness, bringing to mind that trust, once extended, must be earned anew each moment. I leaned forward, noticing the way his fingers curled around the handle, the tremor that persisted despite the warmth. He set the mug down, posture straightening, as though steeling himself for the next moment. Then, without a word, he rose and approached me, steps measured yet determined. My skin prickled with anticipation. Would he thank me and retreat, or convey the debt he owed in a manner I wasn't prepared for? Rahim paused a foot away, hand extending as if weighing a choice. He dropped something into my palm. A small object cold to the touch, its weight both physical and symbolic. I closed my fingers around it, sensing the ridges carved into its surface even before I regarded it. He looked into my eyes and said, "Keep this with you. It's the key to a door you'll never forget." And in the hush that followed, I realized the journey we'd begun would lead far beyond the walls of this shelter and deep into secrets I could never have imagined. The object in my palm is a faded coin, its surface worn smooth by decades of hands that carried hope and loss alike. Rahim meets my gaze and nods solemnly. "Keep it." In that instant, the weight of history presses into my palm, and I realize this small token binds us in a pact far deeper than any shelter's walls. Steam coils upward from chipped bowls of tomato and lentil soup, little miracles offered freely by volunteers who know that warmth can save more than bodies. It can save spirits. The scent of broth mingles with the musty scent of old blankets, creating an aroma that feels at once humble and sacred. I watch as the steam drifts toward the cracked ceiling, wisps dissolving into darkness like whispered prayers seeking solace. We settle onto mismatched chairs around a battered wooden table, scarred with decades of use, its surface a mosaic of chipped paint and carved initials. I cradle a tin mug of lukewarm tea between my hands, savoring the faint bitterness as it slides down my throat. Rahim lifts his own cup, eyes distant as though tasting memories in the liquid. Across from me, his reflection dances in the metal rim, reminding me how easily two strangers can become mirrors of one another's pain. I work nights at the clinic, I confess, voice low against the hum of other voices, patients waiting, volunteers moving through the dim light. I used to believe I was making a difference, but lately I feel like I'm just treating symptoms, never healing the core of people's suffering. My words hang between us, raw and unguarded, echoing the late-night shifts that left me questioning every decision, every ounce of effort spent. Rahim's gaze never wavers. He studies me with an intensity that makes my chest tighten. After a moment's pause, he murmurs, "Purpose finds you when you least expect it." His voice is soft, but each syllable carries the weight of someone who has searched empty streets for meaning and found it in small acts of kindness. His certainty humbles me, reminding me that even the most battered soul can recognize truth when it's spoken. His words sting with a truth I cannot ignore. I feel the ghosts of my own doubts, the late-night tears, the hollow ache of seeing unloved patients for the 20th time in a row, recoil in recognition. There is power in simple sentences, a force that can cut through despair more sharply than any storm. I press my forehead into my hands, tasting the bitterness of regret and the sweetness of possibility intertwined. Around us, the shelter's life continues. A child with a patched coat chases a volunteer for a second bowl of soup. An elderly man hums an old hymn as he sips tea. Two friends embrace in relief at finding each other under this roof. Their collective stories swirl around us, testament to humanity's capacity, both for suffering and for solidarity. I realize our shared moment is but one of many threads weaving this tapestry of human connection. As midnight approaches, the sanctuary's atmosphere shifts. A soft chime echoes through the hall. Volunteers know it signifies the shelter doors will soon lock, cutting guests off from the cold beyond. Chairs scrape on the concrete floor as latecomers hurry toward the exits, faces determined to rest before another day of battles unknown. I glance at my watch. 11:58 p.m., 2 minutes before the door seals. I notice Rahim's hand resting on the table, fingers curling around the faded coin as though drawing courage from its cold metal. I meet his eyes again. In that moment, I sense the coin's true purpose, not as currency, but as a reminder that value lies not in wealth, but in the bond forged between two people when one reaches out. The coin becomes less a relic and more a talisman of our shared humanity. The chime sounds again, more insistent now, and the room's hum softens as volunteers begin guiding the remaining guests to their cots. Blankets rustle. Soft footsteps carry distant prayers, and the faint smell of antiseptic drifts from a side corridor where a volunteer tends to a minor injury. The atmosphere is gentle, protective, a cocoon spun from compassion and necessity. I lean forward, voice barely audible. Rahim, what made you leave everything behind to live on these streets? My question trembles with curiosity and respect. I know silhouette interviews reduce people to caricatures, but this moment feels sacred, deserving of honesty. His eyes flicker with a flicker of pain before he exhales. I wanted to know the truth of suffering, he responds, voice quiet but firm. To live it, not just observe it from the safety of boardrooms or bulletins. I thought by giving up everything, I could find meaning in the simplest gestures, like half an umbrella, a wool scarf, a bowl of soup. His words paint a portrait of radical empathy, a yearning to transform wealth into compassion. I sit back, absorbing his confession, marveling at the audacity of someone who would renounce privilege for vulnerability. I recall the coin's engraving, a crest I hadn't recognized, and feel the enormity of his sacrifice settle around me like snow. In that instant, I'm humbled to the core, aware that my small act of kindness pales beside his lifelong mission. Rahim closes his eyes and places the coin gently on the table between us, as though sealing an unspoken pact. This belonged to my father, he explains. He believed generosity was the highest virtue. Keep it. So you remember why you acted tonight. Tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I reach out, covering the coin with my hand, promising to carry its lesson long after I leave these walls. A volunteer approaches, quietly announcing that the shelter doors are locked. The low rumble of the latch echoes through the hall, sealing off the night's storm. I glance at the window. Rain still pelts the glass, a reminder that outside, the world remains a tempest. Inside, though, we are enclosed by blankets, bowls of soup, and this moment, our shared sanctuary against a darker night. Rahim slides a folded note across the table, its edges worn and damp. In his eyes dances a challenge. Meet me here tomorrow, if you dare. My breath catches, heart pounding at the promise wrapped in those 4 words. For I sense tomorrow we will step beyond this table, beyond this shelter, into a journey neither of us can yet imagine. 5.1. At home, I unfold his note, its edges damp, ink smudged by rain, and read, "Find me where the city sleeps, and watch closely." My heart skips a beat as the paper's cryptic promise unfurls 1,000 questions in my mind. 5.2. Excitement flares through me, but it's instantly tempered by unease. Why this clandestine invitation? What secret does Rahim hide behind those 2 simple lines? 5.3. I pace my living room, the note clutched in one hand, umbrella still in the other. Memories of the shelter's warmth and his solemn coin swirl together, driving me to find answers before tonight's rendezvous. 5.4. The city beyond my window is quiet, its usual hum hushed by dawn's gray light. Yet in my mind, a storm rages, demanding I uncover the truth. 5.5. I flip open my laptop and binge scroll every local news site for mentions of Rahim, rain rescuer, or mysterious benefactor. Headlines about flood relief and anonymous donations flicker across the screen, but none bear a name or a face. 5.6. Online forums teem with speculation. He's an undercover billionaire, one comment claims. An angel in a hoodie, another insists. I follow links to grainy photos, half-seen umbrellas in stormy streets, but none match the hollow-cheeked man sheltered. 5.7. My eyes blur as I click from thread to thread. A blog post lauds a guardian angel of the homeless, while a conspiracy site insists on a hidden agenda. Each theory spins a new web of possibilities, but none feel real enough to guide me. 5.8. Sleep abandons me. Each thunderclap against my window pulls me back to Rahim's haunted eyes and that faded coin. I lie awake, curtains fluttering in the breeze, images of the shelter dancing in my mind like half-remembered dreams. 5.9. I replay every detail, the way his hand shook as he dropped the key, the softness in his voice when he issued the dare. My pulse pounds in my ears, a funeral drum for the innocence I lost the moment I agreed to chase this mystery. 5:10. Dawn arrives without answers. I drag myself to the window, watching the city wake under a slate sky. Pigeons roost on ledges, taxis sputter to life, and somewhere coffee brews in dim cafes. Life humming on while I remain suspended between doubt and determination. 5:11. I turn away from the glass and pocket my umbrella, its warped canopy a reminder of the night's trials. My fingers close around the handle as if it were a lifeline, heart thundering at the thought of walking those rain-slick streets again. 5.12. I whisper to myself, "Tonight, I'll find him." The words taste of resolve and fear, a vow that binds me to Rahim's secret. 5.13. All day, I map the city's pulse, the shelter's location, the deserted corner where we met, the silent alleyways where rain pools like forgotten tears. Each route traced on my phone feels both familiar and fraught with possibility. 5.14. I prepare. Flashlight in my bag, phone fully charged, scarf and gloves laid out. Every item carries the weight of expectation, a toolkit for the unknown. 5:15. As mid-afternoon drizzle begins, I step into the street, umbrella in hand, note folded deep in my coat pocket, when a convoy of black cars roars past, engines growling like beasts in the mist. My breath catches, and I realize I'm no longer hunting a homeless stranger, but chasing a ghost cloaked in power. A social media post tags the shelter last night. A grainy photo shows Rahim under my umbrella, his hollow eyes catching the flash as if startled by his own appearance. I stare at the screen, heart pounding as I reload the page. The image crackles in low resolution, us huddled under that battered canopy, water streaming off its edges like a waterfall. The caption calls him the Rain's hero, and within seconds, my notifications explode with speculation. My hands tremble as I scroll through the comments. Undercover millionaire, guardian angel of the streets, urban legend in a hoodie. Each theory more outlandish than the last, yet all circling back to the man I brought to safety. A link catches my eye. A local blogger's post claiming Rahim vanished before anyone could thank him, crediting him with single-handedly saving dozens during the last downpour. I feel a tug of disbelief. How could someone living on the streets orchestrate flood relief unnoticed? My mind reels as I click through related stories. Anonymous donations landing at shelters, unclaimed trucks delivering supplies in the dead of night. Sporadic news clips show men in dark coats slipping past cameras. None match Rahim's slender frame, but the patterns feel too precise to ignore. My pulse quickens. Publicity stunt? Or something deeper? I lean back in my chair, staring at the screen's glow reflecting off the dark window. Outside, a distant clap of thunder reminds me of the promise swirling in the night sky. I grab a stack of printed articles, spreading them across my coffee table. The grainy umbrella photo, headline screenshots, forum threads predicting Rahim's next appearance. I scribble timelines in the margins, mapping his last known sightings against weather reports and shelter rosters. An hour passes in a blur of caffeine and conjecture. I trace connections between a viral tweet about a mysterious benefactor and a police log reporting unmarked vans distributing relief kits. None of it names names, yet each thread seems to converge on the same figure. Rahim, the man I sheltered. My chest tightens with dread and excitement. If these rumors are true, I've become an unwitting witness to something far bigger than a chance encounter. My phone pings. An alert I didn't set. I fumble to unlock it. A calendar reminder blazes on the screen. Meet Rahim, 8 p.m., shelter. I've seen that time before, but in the note he handed me, it felt like a dare. Now it feels like a summons into a world where compassion collides with conspiracy. I close my eyes, picturing his weary face under the umbrella, wondering what truth he hides behind that solemn gaze. I send one quick message to a trusted friend. Something's happening. Keep your phone on. Then I shut down my laptop and stand, muscles tight as iron springs. The storm outside has dwindled to a light drizzle. The air tastes of wet asphalt and anticipation. I grab my umbrella, still warped but serviceable, and stuff my pocket with printed clues. The echo of thunder follows me out the door, as though urging me not to hesitate. I glance at the clock, 7:59 p.m., and realize I'm already late. I step into the mist, each footfall echoing on the pavement, knowing that when I reach the shelter tonight, the Rahim I find may be nothing like the man I thought I knew. Engines growl in the distance. 5 black SUVs roll in like a presidential motorcade, their headlights carving silver rivers through the mist-soaked courtyard and turning every raindrop into a pinpoint of light that dances across the wet asphalt. My palms sweat beneath the soaked fabric of my coat as I press my back against the cold stone pillar, heart hammering with a mixture of disbelief and dread. Only nights ago, this courtyard was empty, save for the thunder's echo and the distant hum of late night. Traffic now. The air thrums with power and authority. Guards in dark suits and earpieces fan out in perfect symmetry, each man stepping with disciplined precision, as though rehearsed 1,000 times for this very moment. The click of polished shoes on wet concrete reverberates in the hush that descends over the scene, punctuated only by the distant drip of rain from gutter spouts. I swallow hard, breath catching, as I watch the first SUV's door creak open with pneumatic hiss. Rainwater streams down its polished side panels in rivulets, each one glistening like quicksilver under the floodlights. My eyes flick to the door's emblem, an ornate crest I vaguely recognize from the tarnished coin Rahim pressed into my hand. Until this moment, that symbol was a mystery. Now it signals entry into a world I never dared imagine. The guards stand sentinel at the door, faces unreadable beneath the brims of their hats. Not a scrap of compassion shows as they pass, yet I sense an unspoken protocol guiding their every move. Time slows as the second door unlatches, and through the frame steps the man whose name I've come to learn, and who has already taught me more about purpose and sacrifice than anyone I've ever known. Rahim emerges dripping wet, but there is no hint of the ragged coat or hollow gaze I first encountered. Instead, he moves with unhurried grace, wearing a long tailored trench coat that looks impervious to the rain. Its dark fabric clings to his frame in elegant folds, each seam pressed to perfection. His shoes, black leather, spotless, reflect the courtyard's lights without a ripple of water marring their surface. He raises his head, and even in the downpour, his hair is artfully arranged, damp locks swept back to frame his face. Lightning forks above, casting his features in stark relief, cheekbones sculpted, jawline firm, eyes cool and commanding. That haunted look has vanished, replaced by a calm intensity that feels both exhilarating and terrifying. He straightens his shoulders, and I catch the faintest hint of a smile, an acknowledgement that this is precisely how it was meant to unfold. Memories of our shared nights beneath trembling umbrellas flash behind my eyelids. But this man is not the desperate soul I once aided. He is something else entirely. Benefactor, leader, perhaps even a man accustomed to wielding influence rather than pleading for shelter. My feet find motion, despite every instinct begging me to flee. I step from behind the pillar, boots splashing in the shallow puddles as I cross the courtyard. Every step crunches on wet gravel, a staccato drumbeat that echoes in the charged silence. The guards part as I approach, forming a corridor as solemn and deliberate as the aisles of a cathedral. I feel their gazes, measured, appraising, but I hold my head high, each breath a defiance of the fear that threatens to undo me. Rain pelts my coat in relentless sheets, but I feel only a single current of adrenaline coursing through my veins. He waits at the center of the circle, face illuminated by the SUV's interior light. The trenchcoat's collar is turned up, framing his face like a portrait in ebony. In his right hand, he holds the full umbrella, unbroken and sturdy, a silent testament to his return to the world of order from the chaos of the streets. He lifts the umbrella overhead, extending its canopy toward me. The wind tugs at the fabric, but he holds it steady, as though it, too, recognizes its master. I step beneath it, the dry shelter a shock to my soaked senses. The smell of rain and leather mingles with a faint trace of cologne, sophisticated, understated, unlike anything I've smelled in a homeless shelter. Our eyes meet, and for a heartbeat the storm's roar fades behind the steady drum of my heart. I search his face for some shred of the vulnerability I once saw, but all that remains is resolution. He inclines his head in greeting, lips curving into a small, knowing smile that speaks volumes of unspoken plans. I raise a hand instinctively, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear, as though I can steady myself against the surrealism of this moment. The guards relax their stances fractionally, as if granted permission to lower the stakes of their vigil. Thunder rumbles again as I step fully under the umbrella's protection, the warmth beneath its fabric a stark contrast to the chill of my soaked coat. The gap between us shrinks with each heartbeat. His presence fills the space with a gravity I never anticipated. I realize I'm not just a visitor to his world. I've become a vital part of it. The whisper of his coat's fabric as he moves is the only sound beyond rain and distant engines. Every detail is heightened. The subtle crease of his brow, the way his gaze softens as he studies me, the barely perceptible nod that says, "You came." I clear my throat, voice catching at the storm's edge. You're here." The words feel clumsy against the precision of the moment. He tilts his head, eyes locking onto mine with unwavering focus. "I promised," he replies, voice calm yet resonant. "And I always keep my promises." He steps closer, umbrella shifted slightly so we both share its dry haven. The pavement tilts beneath our feet, water pooled in low spots. Yet here, under his canopy, the world is a place of possibility rather than peril. Each breath I take is measured now, each thought tinged with the weight of discovery. I remember the coin, the scarf, the bowls of soup, and I understand that every act led to this collision of worlds. My own life of predictable routines, of late-night clinic shifts and solitary reflections, has been upended by a man who chose to walk among those in need, and then to return with power and purpose. I realize I stand at the threshold of a grand design far beyond my first act of kindness. He offers me his left hand, palm up, as though inviting partnership. I place my hand in his, feeling the warmth of his grip through wet gloves. The guards on either side exhale quietly, their mission paused in deference to this unexpected alliance. A low rumble of thunder shakes the courtyard once more, but there is no fear in his stance, only a serene confidence that the storm, like all things, will pass. He lifts a hand in acknowledgement, and then speaks my name with unmistakable clarity. "Aisha," he says, voice carrying over the muted roar of rain and idling engines. In that single word, I hear both command and invitation, knowing that the next step we take together will reshape everything I thought I knew about kindness, power, and the true meaning of shelter. "Aisha," he says, voice calm but charged, "you found me after all." In that single, resonant word lies every promise and peril of our entwined journey, and I feel my knees go weak as waves of disbelief and exhilaration crash through me. I swallow hard, struggling to steady my racing heart. The torrential rain hammers on the convoy's polished roof, but here, in the hush of his presence, I hear only the sharp rhythm of my pulse echoing in my ears. My vision swims with the memory of that first night's downpour. The battered umbrella, the tattered coat, the fragile spark of compassion that ignited between two strangers. And now, standing before me, is a man who has vanished into myth and power alike, whose return I could never have predicted. Each step I take forward feels weighted with the gravity of unspoken truths. My boots, soaked through hours ago, squeak softly on the slick pavement as I leave the silent guard behind. The courtyard's floodlights wash over him, illuminating the tailored lines of his bespoke trench coat. A garment so immaculate it seems almost ceremonial, as if carved from midnight itself. The coat's collar stands up against the wind, framing his face like a portrait in motion. His eyes, once hollow with desperation, now gleam with purpose and authority. I remind myself that the man I once sheltered is the same one offering me this newest test of loyalty. The transition from ragged stranger to commanding figurehead happened so swiftly, I can hardly grasp its reality. He was a phantom in the storm, and yet here he is, flesh and bone, his presence so intense, it feels as though the world tilts on its axis to accommodate him. He extends his hand in invitation toward the lead SUV, its door already swinging open with a pneumatic sigh. The vehicle's interior glows with muted amber light, echoing the warmth promised within. Beneath my soaking hair and dripping coat, I feel a tremor of anticipation pulse through every nerve. I step forward, hand rising almost of its own accord to rest in his. His grip is firm, reassuring, a lifeline anchored in shared trust. As I settle into the plush leather seat, the world outside shifts. The door closes with a smooth click, sealing us inside an enclave of comfort that mocks the storm's fury. Crystal, decanters rest on polished wood between us, their contents glinting like trapped sunlight. I inhale the scent of aged leather and fine spirits, an aroma so unfamiliar to me that it sets my senses alight. Even the faint hum of the engine feels like a promise of motion, of destinies unfolding on distant horizons. He remains standing just outside the door, rain beating on the broad shoulders of his coat. I glance up through the tinted glass and catch him watching me, eyes unblinking, as though measuring every flicker of emotion crossing my face. In those depths, I see no judgment, only recognition, as if he's glimpsed every hidden corner of my soul and chosen to accept me anyway. My breath catches, and a flush of heat rises up my neck despite the coolness inside the vehicle. A surge of memories washes over me. The night he first stepped into my path, shivering beneath the broken umbrella, the bowl of soup and the coin, the note with its cryptic summons. Each moment felt small then, private, a secret shared between two people on the fringe of the world. But now I understand those moments were seeds of transformation, planted in soil rich with purpose. He guided me here, to this moment, and I realize I stand at the threshold of something vast. I draw my coat tighter, pressing my back against the fine leather, as though bracing myself for the revelation that looms ahead. My mind churns. What awaits inside this convoy of black SUVs? Is this a triumphant homecoming for a hidden hero, or a summons into a labyrinth of power and intrigue? The crystal decanter beside me catches the light, its facets fracturing the amber liquid into shards of possibility. I lift the stopper with tentative fingers and inhale its scent. Smoky, aged oak. My hand trembles as I pour a small measure into a crystal tumbler, the amber liquid swirling like liquid sunset. He steps into the vehicle then, settling across from me with an ease that speaks of practice and privilege. The plush seat yields beneath him, the trench coat spreading like a dark veil over the leather. He places a gloved hand on the wood panel between us, fingertips brushing the decor with a quiet reverence. He watches me carefully, as though gauging whether I am worthy to share in the comforts of his world. I clear my throat, voice tight with the weight of unasked questions. Why? Why all this? I nod toward the crystal and the leather and the warm glow of the interior. Why the convoy? Why the secrecy? My words come in a rush, propelled by a mixture of wonder and uncertainty. Outside, rain drums on the roof like distant drumbeats preparing for a grand parade. He lets me finish, then tilts his head, eyes reflecting the amber glow of the decanter. Because, he says softly, some truths must be unveiled only when the time is right, and some wars against suffering cannot be waged in the open. His voice holds a note of solemn conviction that sends a chill through me, even inside this cocoon of warmth. He leans forward, placing both elbows on his knees, hands clasped. For years I operated in the shadows, he continues, believing anonymity was the greatest shield for those I sought to protect. But shadows can breed doubt, can shackle good intentions to fear. Tonight, in your presence, I step into the light. His words resonate in the hush between engine hums and the soft sigh of the leather seats. I feel the truth of them in my bones. That kindness, when cloaked in secrecy, risks being mistaken for trickery. That hope, to flourish, must be seen and shared. I realize then that his transformation from beggar to benefactor, from phantom to leader, was never merely a reversal of fortune. It was a revelation designed to awaken allies. My pulse hammers again as I consider the magnitude of his mission. The coin in my pocket, the key pressed into my hand, they were tokens of initiation, invitations to join something greater than ourselves. I look up at him, wanting to speak, to ask if I've done enough, if I'm worthy of this trust. But the words dissolve as he speaks again, his gaze unwavering. There is work to be done, he says, lives depending on it. I need someone by my side who knows both worlds, someone with compassion tempered by experience, someone unafraid to stand in the rain. His gaze pierces me, and I feel both exposed and empowered, as though he's uncovered the truest parts of me. I want to tell him I'd follow him anywhere, but the lump in my throat presses words back down. Instead, I nod, voice husky. I'm here, I whisper. The words carry the weight of every sacrifice I've already made, my routines abandoned tonight, my doubts laid bare. He inclines his head with a faint smile, approval shimmering in his eyes. He rises then, shifting the umbrella he still holds in his other hand to shield both of us from the lingering drizzle that seeps through the windows. The engine rumbles to life, and the convoy begins to move, tires humming against wet asphalt in perfect unison. The world beyond the tinted glass recedes, replaced by a corridor of lights and shadows weaving past at cinematic speed. As we travel through the city's veins, I watch street signs blur into streaks of green and white. Neon reflections tremble on puddles at the curb. I sip the amber liquid, letting its warmth settle in my chest, forging courage from its smoky depths. Behind me, I sense Rahim's presence, silent, vigilant, a steady anchor in the motion. Before long, the lead SUV turns onto a wide avenue lit by towering street lamps. The rain has eased to a gentle patter, and the world outside looks less menacing in the soft haze. I step out of the vehicle when he indicates, boots crunching on gravel that leads to a large iron gate, its bars gleaming wetly under the lamplight. Two guards step forward without hesitation, unlocking the gate with a click that echoes like a verdict. Beyond the gate, a sprawling courtyard spills into a grand building whose facade is carved from pale stone. Columns reach skyward, framing arched windows glowing with interior light. The scene is both breathtaking and surreal. A mansion hidden behind fortress walls, a palace of benevolence waiting to enfold those in need. He closes the umbrella, taking my hand and leading me across the courtyard. I feel the chill of the night air bite through my coat, but the heat left by the decanter still glows in my veins. We approach the main doors, engraved with the same crest from the coin, the SUV, and the key, its symbol now a promise turned reality. At the threshold, he pauses, turning to face me. The rain-dappled light catches the determination in his eyes. My breath catches. I realize I have no idea what awaits inside, only that I am irrevocably committed to discovering it. He lifts a hand, palm open, and presses it against the door's surface. A soft click echoes as hidden mechanisms unlock the way forward. He closes the door behind us with deliberate calm, then leans close and whispers, "Welcome to the mission you helped start." In that moment, I know the life I thought I led has ended, and a new one, forged in storms both literal and metaphorical, begins. He unveils his true identity in a low, steady voice that cuts through the hum of the relief unit's generators. I am the heir to a philanthropic empire I renounced years ago. The words land like thunder in my chest, shattering every assumption I've held since the night I first offered him half my umbrella. I stare at him beneath the canopy of the Convoy's lead SUV, rain lightly misting the open door. His trench coat, once a symbol of elegance, now feels like a uniform of purpose. He steps forward, the faint creak of leather announcing each calculated move. The guards at the vehicle's flank fall back respectfully, creating space for the revelation that dwarfs any display of wealth I've ever known. A life lived among shadows. He continues without hesitation. I lived among the homeless for years to understand suffering from the inside. His eyes are unflinching as he describes nights on cold concrete, days scavenging for food and shelter, and the subtle dignity he discovered in the resilience of people whose society had long forgotten. Each sentence weaves a tapestry of sacrifice, an inheritance traded for anonymity, boardrooms swapped for battered coats, red carpets for cracked sidewalks. I remember his haunted eyes under the broken street lamp, the way he accepted my scarf without a hint of disdain. Now I see that humility was deliberate, part of an elaborate plan to merge empathy with action. A chill runs down my spine as I realize how meticulously he orchestrated every step of his journey, not for accolades, but to cultivate an authenticity that no title or fortune could buy. Every act, a piece of a larger mission. He gestures to the rows of SUVs lined up behind us, each one stocked with blankets, medical, supplies, and emergency rations. Every umbrella you shared, every scarf you draped across my shoulders was part of a secret relief operation I funded personally, he says. You were my first collaborator, Aisha. His tone carries neither arrogance nor apology, only the quiet certainty of someone who has built an entire network of compassion in plain sight. I close my eyes, recalling the stray dog that trailed us, the volunteers whispering his name when he entered the shelter, even the note left on the table. None of it was random. Each kindness I offered, each gesture he accepted, wove us tighter into his design. The irony strikes me that, while I thought I was rescuing a stranger, he was recruiting me, and countless others, into a mission that transcended charity. The Convoy as a mobile relief unit. He leads me toward the nearest vehicle, its rear doors swinging open to reveal a cavernous interior. Lanterns hang from hooks on the ceiling, casting warm pools of light over stacked crates labeled medical, nutrition, and comfort. Volunteers clad in waterproof gear move with calm efficiency, loading stretchers and organizing supply kits. In the corner, a mechanic adjusts a small generator, ensuring uninterrupted power for field hospitals. This convoy is our mobile relief unit, he explains, eyes bright with purpose. We move where storms hit hardest, literal storms, economic crises, pandemics. We bring aid before governments can mobilize, shifting resources to where they're needed most. I step inside, boots squeaking on waterproof mats, and run my hand along a row of gleaming boxes. In that instant, the magnitude of his operation unfurls before me. A fleet of vehicles equipped to deliver hope on wheels. An invitation to partnership. He watches my reaction, gauging the tremor in my voice when I whisper, "It's incredible." He nods, and in that nod, I feel the weight of expectation settle on my shoulders. "I want you by my side," he says. "Your medical training, your compassion. Together, we can set up field clinics that reach places others can't." He reaches into a leather tote and pulls out a prototype medical kit, its contents neatly organized and ready for deployment. Bandages, antibiotics, 4 fluids, portable diagnostic tools. My throat goes dry as I lift the kit, feeling its promise in my palms. I've spent years treating symptoms in overcrowded wards. Here is a chance to heal not just bodies, but communities left to fend for themselves. Yet as exhilaration surges, a cold whisper of doubt creeps in. Am I worthy of this mission? A tremor of imposter guilt coils in my stomach, reminding me of every time I hesitated to speak up in the clinic, every moment of uncertainty about my own abilities. Imposter guilt meets exhilaration. He watches me, perceptive and patient, as I trace the kit's compartments with tentative fingers. Why me? I ask in a voice too soft to carry across. The drumming rain. He meets my gaze squarely, eyes steady. Your compassion proved you belonged here, he replies. You acted without knowing who I was, without expectation of reward. That selflessness is exactly what this mission needs. His words pierce through the self-doubt, fanning the spark of purpose that first drew me to him. I swallow hard, shoulders relaxing for the first time in hours. The ache of imposter syndrome loosens as I realize he doesn't seek perfection, but devotion. My heart thuds with a new determination. If I can save one life, one family, one community from suffering, then the journey to this point will have been worth every sleepless night and every soaked coat. Shared resolve. Under the rain. Outside, the rest of the convoy hums with activity. A volunteer loads insulated boxes into a side hatch. 2 others consult a tablet displaying weather patterns and disaster alerts. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of antiseptic and wet canvas, the soundtrack of purpose humming through the small heater at my feet. I tuck the medical kit under my arm, feeling its weight like a contract signed in raindrops. He stands beside me, hand resting on my shoulder. I glance up, emerald eyes meeting mine beneath the brim of his rain-speckled hat. The rain has slowed to a steady mist, each droplet forging tiny rivers down the convoy's polished sides. I feel neither the cold nor fatigue. I feel readiness, a sense of belonging that defies any title or credential. Together, we stand amid the orchestration of hope, 2 figures bound by umbrella and scarf, now by mission. A call beyond the shelter. He steps back, raising his voice so the nearest volunteers can hear. Let's move, he instructs, and a ripple of response radiates through the crew. Engines hum in unison as the convoy revs, headlights turning into guiding stars against the gray sky. He turns to me one last time before climbing into the driver's seat of the lead SUV. Tomorrow we depart at dawn, he says. I'll need your expertise in setting up the first clinic. Are you ready for what lies ahead? I pause, the enormity of the question settling over me like the final drop of rain. 1,000 fears and hopes collide in my chest. Then, with deliberate calm, I lift my head and meet his gaze. I'm ready, I reply, voice ringing with conviction. The gratitude in his smile is the only answer I need. My phone buzzes in my coat pocket, pulling me back from the horizon of possibilities. I retrieve it and see my boss's name flashing across the screen with urgent text. We need you to start the overseas project. Next flight in 4 hours. Respond immediately. As rain beads on the windshield, I stare at the message, torn between 2 callings that demand everything I have. My phone trembles in my hand as I step away from the convoy. The incoming call from my boss confirming my promotion, unlike any I've ever received. Overseas project starts. Immediately, she says, voice brisk and excited. An opportunity years in the making, a ticket to prestige and stability. The world tilts beneath my feet. I glance back at the convoy's lead SUV, its wheels still humming from the recent departure, and feel the echo of Rahim's invitation pulsing in my chest. 2 worlds collide in that instant, one of boardroom accolades and corporate acclaim, the other of muddy streets, makeshift clinics, and a mission fueled by compassion. The text message slips from my numb fingers, disappearing as I stare at the blank pavement. My legs betray me. They buckle without warning, and I sink to one knee on the slick asphalt. Rain begins to fall again, lightly at first, just a whisper of droplets, but already the pavement glistens under the street lamp's glow. I press a hand to my chest, heart racing, as though attempting to break free of its cage. The envelope marked "Decide" lies against my thigh, weighty with consequence. Before I can process my turmoil, Rahim appears at my side. He kneels on the opposite knee, mirroring my posture, and places a gentle hand on my elbow. His touch is warm against the chill of rain, grounding me. In his eyes, I see the same storm of conflict, the pull of purpose against the lure of security. He guides me upright with careful strength. Above us, thunder rumbles, as if echoing my internal battle. Rain intensifies, pounding on the convoy's roof where a few volunteers linger, watching. Their gazes are patient, neither pressuring nor judgmental, reminders that I am part of something broader than one decision. Rahim shifts his weight and straightens, kneeling beside me. "You stood for me," he says softly, voice carrying a tenderness I didn't know he possessed. "Will you stand for thousands next?" The words hang in the damp air, each syllable crackling with urgency. I taste the irony. He asks me to stand again, this time not as rescuer, but as partner in rescue. Tears mingle with the raindrops on my cheeks as I swallow hard. I close my eyes, recalling every moment that led here. The battered umbrella, the shared scarf, the note that dared me to return. Each memory surges forward like distant waves, cresting and crashing until my resolve splinters. I realize choosing a conventional path means turning away from every life we could save together. He extends the envelope toward me, its edges soaked through. I take it with trembling fingers, fingernails damp and pale. The words "Decide" are stamped in bold black ink. A gust of wind rustles the convoy's banners. In that movement, I glimpse a future divided by a single line. Rahim rises and retreats into the convoy's glow, leaving me alone on the rain-slick asphalt with the envelope clutched to my chest. The roar of engines fades as I stand between two destinies, knowing that when I open this envelope, nothing will ever be the same. Back in my apartment, the envelope lies unopened on the coffee table, its presence as heavy as a judge's gavel. I circle it like a predator, heart pounding with the weight of choices that could define or destroy my future. I pace the narrow living room, rainwater dripping from my coat onto the hardwood floor. Stability, salary, recognition versus impact, risk, purpose. The pros and cons list in my notebook seems inadequate to capture the chasm that divides these paths. Each bullet point feels like a fragment of my identity torn in two. Rahim's gratitude echoes in my mind. The way his eyes met mine when I offered that half-broken umbrella, the ripple of hope in his quiet smile. I replay his plea. "Stand for thousands next." Those words soar and crash inside me, drowning out the corporate mentor's warnings. "You'll regret leaving your career," she'd said, voice firm on the phone line. I forced a laugh, then agreed, selling my commitment to a project I no longer believed in. Now, her caution haunts every step I take. I imagine the faces we could save if I join him full-time. Children with fevered brows, mothers clutching newborns, elderly trembling with cold. I see their gratitude shining brighter than any corporate accolade. Yet the specter of risk looms: unstable regions, limited resources, nights without shelter. My logbook sits open on my desk, patient charts and appointment reminders lingering next to mutation of Rahim's note. My heart thunders when I recall my own comforts: a furnished apartment in a safe district, a reliable paycheck, weekends free for restful leisure. I remember my mother's pride when I landed that clinic position, her eyes brimming with hope for me. Would I break her heart by chasing a dream that may shatter my own security? Dawn's gray light filters through the curtains, softening the room in muted tones. I lean against the windowsill, the envelope before me like a wall separating two worlds. Outside, the city wakes under drizzle-soaked skies. Taxi horns, coffee shop shutters rattling open, joggers splashing through puddles. Life continues, indifferent to my crisis. I pick up a pen and scrawl across the margin of my list. Heart or head? Pen tip hovers, indecision folding my stomach into knots. I consider tearing the envelope open on the spot, but stall. Fear of finality holds me back. Inhaling deeply, I rise and move to the bookshelf, tracing my fingers along framed photos, one of me in my clinic whites, another at the shelter's door handing Raham his scarf. 2 images, 2 lives, neither complete without the other. A soft knock on the door startles me. I spin around, heart in my throat, as a single business card slips through the crack beneath. In bold lettering it reads, "Meet me, tomorrow, no questions." I cross to the door, card in hand, and realize that tomorrow's dawn will demand my choice, and I am more unprepared than ever. Back in my apartment, the envelope sits unopened on the coffee table, its crisp edges pressing into the wood like a judge's, gavel ready to fall. I circle it slowly, heart pounding so hard I fear it will burst free of my chest. Every tick of the clock echoes louder now, each second dragging me closer to a choice that could define, or destroy, my future. The rain continues its steady drum outside my window, droplets smacking against the glass in a relentless cadence. I shrug off my coat, water sluicing through the fabric onto the hardwood floor, and stand in my soaked shoes, immobilized by the gravity of what lies within that envelope. For weeks I've chased clues, followed notes, and trusted a stranger's vision. Now, that same stranger demands I cast aside everything I know for a chance to save a world I barely understand. I move to the couch and sit, pulling the envelope toward me. My fingers hover over the seal, trembling as though the slightest pressure might shatter my resolve. Across the room, my desk holds 2 lives side by side, a stack of patient charts and appointment reminders spilling onto one corner, and on the other, sticky notes scrawled with Rahim's cryptic messages and the flight itinerary peeking out from under a faded photo of us in the rain. They stare at me, my past and my possible future, each demanding allegiance. I reach for my notebook and flip to the page marked Pros and Cons, its margins crowded with scribbles. On the left, stability, salary, recognition, a promising career in a respected clinic, a secure routine, weekends where I can sleep without fear of what tomorrow brings. On the right, impact, risk, purpose, remote field clinics, bed nets in monsoon-battered villages, the knowledge that every act of kindness could mean the difference between life and death. I scrawl another pro, save thousands, and beneath it, a con, lose everything I've built. My pen skitters across the paper, tracing indecision like a wound that refuses to heal. Each bullet point gouges at my certainty, reminding me that any attempt to quantify human suffering in neat categories is futile. The pages blur as tears sting my eyes, and I close the notebook with a soft snap, the sound reverberating through the empty apartment. Rahim's face floods my mind, illuminated beneath that broken awning, gratitude shining in his eyes. Gratitude I thought I was giving, but that he somehow returned tenfold. His plea, "Will you stand for thousands next?" echoes through my chest like the tolling of a distant bell. I realize that every time I doubted myself in the clinic, every moment I felt I wasn't enough, he believed I was precisely what this mission needed. But can I believe it too? My phone buzzes, and I nearly drop it. It's a text from my mentor at the clinic. "Final confirmation on your assignment. Departure at 6 a.m. We need your medical report by Friday." The words affirm my corporate path, the one I've trained years to follow. I inhale and exhale, tasting the irony. I've already agreed to abandon this journey, yet my appointment reminders accuse me of betrayal if I do. I stand, pacing, each footstep a conflict between heart and head. The apartment feels smaller, walls closing in as though to force my decision. I pass the window and pause, staring down at the neon hum of the city below. Taxis splash past, pedestrians huddle beneath umbrellas, oblivious to my inner turmoil. Their lives carry on, immune to the storm that rages within me. A memory surfaces, sharp as lightning. The night I first saw Rahim crouched at the curb, rain tearing at his clothes, shivering as though the storm was trying to erase him. Compassion propelled me forward that night, overriding every caution. My legs carried me through ankle-high puddles without question. If I had hesitated then, he might have disappeared into the darkness and cold. I wouldn't forgive myself if I hesitated now. But the practical voice in my head protests. He's just one man. What about the hundreds of patients waiting for me in the clinic? The children scheduled for vaccinations? Guilt coils in my stomach, acidic and relentless. I turn away from the window, shoulders aching under the weight of responsibility on both sides. On my bookshelf sits a framed photograph of my mother beaming proudly on my graduation day. Her phone calls have grown more insistent this week. She wants to spoil me before I leave, to bake my favorite cookies, to remind me of family traditions. If I depart with Rahim, I'll shatter her pride. I'll break her heart. Yet the thought of staying, of signing those government forms and boarding that plane for a project I dread, brings its own brand of anguish. I sink onto the edge of my bed, entropy swirling through my tangled thoughts. My scarf from that first night, still damp and folded on the dresser, beckons me. A reminder of a promise I made unconsciously, to help another human being, regardless of consequence. I trace its soft wool with a fingertip, images of lightning-lit eyes flooding back. Purpose finds you when you least expect it, he said. Yet here I am, at the precipice of purpose, paralyzed by the fear of losing everything else. Dawn's gray light filters through the curtains, shifting the room from dark uncertainty to a pale, impartial witness. I stand and approach the coffee table, the envelope now seeming to pulse in time with my heartbeat. The choice is no longer theoretical. In a few hours, someone will arrive to escort me either toward my corporate assignment or into the convoy of SUVs that promises frontline service. I draw in a breath heavy with finality. My trembling fingers close around the envelope's rectangular shape. I feel the thickness of its paper, faster than I expect. My nails score the surface, opening a slit. I pause, breath held, torn between sealing my fate with a single tear or abandoning it once more. Then a soft knock at the door jolts me from my indecision. My heart slams against my ribs. I retreat a step, eyeing the unopened envelope, and move toward the entrance with cautious urgency. Another gentle rap follows, and I realize I'm not alone in my struggle. The universe often responds to dread with opportunity. Here it comes now in the form of a visitor. I cross the room, each step an echo of resolve, hard-earned through sleepless nights and rain-soaked streets. At the door, I bend to retrieve something from the floor, a single business card, half-slid beneath the frame. Its stark lettering reads simply, "Meet me, tomorrow, no questions." A shiver runs through me, not of fear, but of anticipation. The card's message carries the same daring promise as Rahim's note, a summons to act without hesitation, to trust the unknown. I fold it between my fingers, finger trembling as I absorb its weight. I glance back at the coffee table. The envelope still waits, its fate undetermined. Outside, the rain has paused, leaving the pavement glistening like spilled mercury. In that brief calm, I sense the approaching storm of choice. Tomorrow's dawn will demand my allegiance, either to the safe horizon of my old life, or the uncharted path of a mission larger than myself. Clutching both the business card and the unmoved envelope, I stand alone in the quiet apartment, heart pounding with the knowledge that when the sun rises, I must decide. Will I turn that envelope over to open it, Or will I slip into the rain once more and follow the promise of an uncharted destiny? I open the envelope and find a crisp flight itinerary tucked beneath a single slip of paper that reads, "Great journeys begin with one step." My breath catches at the weight of that promise, and I know tonight marks the crossing from the life I've known into the unknown. I trace the flight number and departure time with trembling fingers. 6 a.m. tomorrow, non-stop to the flood-ravaged region he mentioned. The paper crackles in my hand like an unfolding destiny, each crease a prelude to the story I'm about to write. My pulse races as I gather a small suitcase and lay it open on the bed. I methodically lift my stethoscope from its case and place it atop folded scrub shirts, as though committing my skills to the journey's cause before even stepping into the world. Next, I thumb through my battered notebook, its pages filled with clipped newspaper articles, scribbled names, and the faded coin Rahim entrusted to me. I slip the coin between the pages, both talisman and reminder of why I agreed to this leap into uncertainty. I pause at the doorway, staring back at the apartment that once felt like the center of my universe. The scent of rain and coffee lingers in the air, and I realize that by morning I will be thousands of miles away, trading these familiar walls for muddy fields and the roar of diesel engines. With a final glance, I grab my coat and scarf, sliding my unbroken umbrella into its sleeve, even though the forecast promises clear skies where I'm headed. The umbrella's ribs still bear a few bends, souvenirs of the night I first met Rahim, and I tuck it alongside my medical bag, a tangible link to the journey's inception. I step into the hallway, the building's fluorescent lights flickering overhead as I lock the door behind me. My heartbeat reverberates in the silent corridor, each footstep an echo of resolve that this step will reshape more than just my career. Outside, the rain has tapered to a gentle mist. Street lamps cast halos on the wet pavement, illuminating the path to the convoy's meeting point. I draw in a steadying breath, the cool air filling my lungs with the prelude of adventure and the echo of distant thunder. At the corner where we first crossed paths, 3 sleek SUVs stand lined up like sentinels awaiting orders. Headlights cut through the mist in golden beams, piercing the night with purpose. Volunteers in high-visibility jackets move between them, securing equipment and distributing steaming cups of tea. Rahim emerges from the shadows, face half-lit by the convoy's glow. He wears no trench coat tonight but a simple waterproof shell, sleeves rolled up to reveal a crisp white shirt beneath. His smile is quiet, no longer shy or desperate, but warm with anticipation. He steps forward and extends his hand, palm open as he did in that courtyard so long ago. "Welcome," he says, voice calm but edged with excitement. "This is where your journey truly begins." The weight of expectation flows from his fingertips into mine as I place my hand in his. I feel the hum of generators behind us, the scent of engine oil and damp earth mingling. Volunteers hurry past, lifting insulated boxes and strapping medical backpacks to their shoulders. The convoy feels alive, a living organism breathing hope into the storm's aftermath. Rahim nods toward the lead vehicle. "Get in," he says, ushering me to the front passenger seat. The door opens smoothly, revealing a cabin outfitted with navigational screens, satellite phones, and supplies stowed in lockable compartments. A far cry from any ambulance or clinic I've known. Settling into the seat, I glimpse the stash of sterile gloves, diagnostic strips, and IV kits neatly lined in a side console. My heart leaps. Here is the culmination of his vision, and my skills fused into one mobile lifeline. I secure the seatbelt, the clip clicking with finality. The engine rumbles to life, a deep resonance that vibrates through my core. Through the windshield, I watch the convoy stretch its headlights like a chain of beacons, each light a promise to those who wait in flooded villages, cut-off roads, and refugee camps. Beside me, Rahim slides into the driver's seat, closing the door with a confident thud. He fires up the GPS, and the roar of the diesel engines escalates into a symphony of departure. The faint glow of dawn peaks at the horizon, signaling that our window for travel is narrow and precious. I uncap a thermal flask of coffee sitting in the cup holder, its steam curling into the air, like tiny prayers. I take a tentative sip, the bitter warmth searing away my lingering doubts. This is not comfort. It's fuel for the miles ahead and the lives we aim to touch. The convoy rolls forward, tires splashing through puddles left by last night's storm. The road narrows as we exit the city, the silhouette of skyscrapers receding into the gloom. In their place rise the dark shapes of undulating hills, each crest promising both obstacle and opportunity. Headlights sweep over roadside dwellings with faded paint and broken windows, hints of the devastation we are heading toward. I press my palm to the glass, as if connecting my heartbeat to the land itself. In this reflection, I see not fear, but determination, an unwavering acceptance of what I must do. We pass a sign reading, "Welcome to River County," its letters half submerged by overflow from upstream floods. My stomach churns with urgency. There, beyond that marker, families await water, medicine, and blankets. I tighten my grip on the edge of the seat, ready to transform hope into action. The convoy begins its ascent into steeper terrain, engines whine in low gear, and the wind surges against the windows. Rain returns in earnest, drumming on the roof with renewed vigor. Yet inside the cabin, a quiet energy hums, a shared conviction that this night's journey will save more than bodies. It will salvage dignity. Rahim glances over, eyes glowing with purpose. "Next stop, Camp Hope," he announces. "We'll set up a clinic by sunrise." His words carve the path ahead, and I nod, stethoscope resting against my chest, notebook ready for patient names and vital signs. I lean back, letting the rhythm of the road and the camaraderie of the crew lull me into focus. This is my new reality, a world where temples of healing exist not in sterile halls, but in tents pitched on soggy ground, where every heartbeat matters more than any promotion. Cliffhanger. As the lead SUV turns onto a muddy access road, I whisper to myself, half vow, half prayer. This is only the beginning. Ahead lies a horizon of human need and uncharted purpose, and with Rahim at the wheel, I am finally ready to step into the destiny I once feared to claim. If this story resonated with you, please tap like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another emotional journey. Then drop a comment below, sharing which moment moved you most, and don't forget to share this video with anyone who needs a reminder of the power of compassion.